The show today brought to you by the Academy of Orthopedic Physical Therapy, the leaders in orthopedic physical therapy. Find them online at orthopt.org. Now, with their current concepts of physical therapy in their 5th edition, it can help you prepare for that OCS examination. Find them online at orthopt.org. The Brooks Institute of Higher Learning gives you advanced post-professional education with 7 on-site PT residencies, including orthopedics, women's health, pediatrics, sports, and neurology, as well as an OMPT fellowship, all focused on experiential learning. Find out more at brooksihl.org. All right, Tony Maritato here with myself, Jimmy McKay. Welcome back to the show. We've alluded to this on a few live streams, right? We're tackling one of the biggest problems, and it isn't or wasn't just one of the biggest problems we saw maybe at PPS or we thought or felt. Now we're backed by research, Tony. We can point to like a published resource from the American Physical Therapy Association and the private practice section. And they came out with this, essentially this resource that highlighted these statistics, right? That hiring and retaining top PT talent is a big problem right now as we talk in October of 2024. That benchmark report reveals that clinics are dealing with a 9.5%, let's just round it, make it 10% vacancy rate, meaning 1 in 10 positions that you're actively trying to fill is empty and you can't fill it. Now that's nearly double the national average outside of our profession. So there's a big problem. We're double the average and not in a good way. And this means, in layman's terms, so people like me can understand, filling positions and keeping therapists on board is a real challenge, and it doesn't just feel bad, it costs clinics money. Now, if you solve this problem, you're ahead of the game by miles. To help solve this problem, Tony and I are going to come in, and we're each going to share 3 innovative ideas that we've sort of come up with or spitballed on how to attract and retain the best therapists for your clinic. We'll go back and forth like we do six-pack style, offering up practical but creative. Hopefully, maybe it's outside the box, or maybe we're stealing from people who've been creative and thoughtful either in our profession or out of our profession, which you should be doing on a regular basis. No need to reinvent the wheel. Steal someone's wheels. So we didn't talk about this. Do you want to flip a coin? Who wants to go first? You want to go first?
You go first. You go first.
I'll go first. And I'm going to do mine in a superhero theme, Tony. Superhero theme. Okay. So my first one, I'm going to go with a short-term win. Okay. So something you can do that will help to get people in the door quickly, but knowing that's only half the battle. So it's attract and retain. So my superhero theme is Avengers Assemble. Like you were waiting through the whole franchise for Captain America to say those words, Avengers Assemble, right? So the idea is being able to create your own bonus team. So could you offer a bonus referral program where staff can refer their colleagues? I liked to work at places with people I liked to work with. And who knows therapists? Who knows who's good? Who knows who's not so good, right? Than the people that are actually working there. I mean, how many times have you seen like a resume come across and you're like, hey, you two worked together here, or you went to school together. What do you know about Jimmy? And you're like, oh, I'm going to save you a year's worth of problems. Get rid of Jimmy. This kid is a pain in the butt. Or, oh my gosh, that person's on the market. Grab them. Now, we've said before publicly what staffing agencies will charge, right? So you can go pay a staffing agency, or you can pay to put a job on LinkedIn or Indeed or whatever. I'm not saying don't do that, but if you know it's worth a lot, why do we offer like $200 or something like that to someone to refer a colleague? Why not put skin in the game? And people get serious. So if you want a serious bounty, like if you're in the Wild West, if someone really wanted to get someone else caught, they'd put more money up. So the idea there is a referral bonus program, but don't make it lip service. And you can also like make it real, right? Like double the bonus or put some contingencies on it that makes sense. Like a person's got to stay for a year, right? You're not just going to try to get a couple grand out of a company just to bring a friend in, but maybe say like, hey, if they stay a year, it's this, and then give them more money. If they stay for 3 years, you found me a home run employee. Why aren't our successes tied together? So this is a short-term suggestion to get a lot of apps in, but if it works out, man, what's that great hire worth? Is it worth tens of thousands of dollars? So give them some skin in the game.
I think you're right in the sense that what is it worth? Putting something out there. I've just never seen it work. I've
Yeah.
never seen, there are referral bonuses out there. Everybody's offering. I remember skilled nursing was offering like $12,000
Really?
sign-on bonuses and $6,000 referral bonuses. I basically think that if you're working somewhere and you have a buddy who is a great therapist, you're going to try to bring them onto the team anyway.
Right.
This would be a situation where I don't know. I think it's been done. I like it. It should work. I want it to
Right.
work. I just don't see it actually working.
Yeah.
I'm going to go I'm going to zig when you're zagging. And
Okay.
I'm going to say, look, I think the solution is going away from trying to find licensed therapists. Now, my third offer will be to attract therapists. But my first offer is, let's go the other direction. Let's take a look at what we're doing. And I know we're all in different settings and I know we all see different clienteles and patients. But for me, there's probably a lot that I could delegate out to a non-therapist. And so if I could build a model, and I've said this before, where I know I can open a clinic tomorrow. I know I could fill the clinic tomorrow, but I don't have a licensed therapist to work the clinic tomorrow. So maybe I look at, well, what's the problem I'm solving? I'm solving shoulder pain or knee replacement. My niche, knee replacement. How do I do that? Maybe I bring a remote therapist in, telehealth. They come into my clinic without ever leaving their home. They do the evaluation. They develop the plan of care. And then I have a non-licensed clinician delivering self-pay services that's following the prescribed protocol. And I think this is where we start to try to define the line that maybe is a little blurry. It's like, well, what needs a therapist? What can be delegated?
Right.
If that evaluating therapist says, I've evaluated them, they're safe, they need to do this, this, and this, I can train a non-licensed individual to do this, this, and this.
Right.
And when you look at the self-pay costs, so somebody who has a Medicare Advantage plan, they have a $50 copay for every visit. They're going to go to an in-network provider. For 18 visits, they're going to pay $900. Can I get a non-licensed individual to deliver an equal plan of care that's less than $900? So I don't even have to bill insurance for that time. That's the direction that I immediately go every time I think there's a staffing shortage. What are we going to do? Deliver the outcome in a different way.
In an opportunity to sort of bolster that idea, I mentioned at the top of this video that 1 in 10 physical therapist jobs was vacant, but it looks like for physical therapist assistants, it's close to 20. It's 17.2% of physical therapist assistant jobs are vacant. So you're going to have to they're being sought for, but they're not filling those roles. And so, I mean, we've talked about this before. I think they're one of the cheat codes on, can you provide great care? But we've also talked about, you need to emotionally let go that you're the secret sauce, that everything you have to do every single step. If you keep doing every single step, you're going to continue to do every single step forever. And you're going to get paid like you produce less cars per year versus working in some sort of team or assembly line.
And I'm shocked because everybody freaked out when Medicare cut reimbursement for services delivered by an assistant.
Right.
Yet we see the need for assistants now higher than ever. Right. I love assistants. I only work with assistants in my practice these days. But yeah, I would have been surprised. I would have thought there was a surplus of assistants on the market because of the reduced reimbursement.
All right. My second suggestion would be pay attention to what people gripe about. We do this a lot in Facebook groups. Facebook groups are really good for gripes. Sometimes they're good for solutions. Most of the time, they're just good for gripes. But people are talking about flexibility. And a statistic I saw the other day, I think it was Harvard Business Review. They asked people, if I offered you the same exact job, but one was in person and one was remote, what do you value that as? Essentially, if I was going to offer you $100,000 for this job, how much would you be willing to take in terms of less money to do the job, either partially or fully remote? It was close to 10%. So people would take a 10% pay cut for flexibility. So how are you doing that? I mean, I, in a previous life, worked for Fox Rehabilitation. They looked at this gripe or this problem in a PT's life and said, we're going to sort of build a foundation on this. They're based on house calls. So like, that's messy anyway. And they would like, if we had to schedule this person out, like we couldn't do that. That's infrastructure. So you do it at the end of the week or month, you've got to hit this It wasn't productivity. It was just the number of units. And if you want to you want to work 24 hours straight and your patients agree to that, great. So I think that my suggestion number 2 is, how can you make the job more attractive? Again, I just said people are willing to take 10% less if they perceive it as flexible. So that's what people want in 2024. If you're not delivering on this and advertising, just because you do it, put that out there on the hook. Like, flexibility instantly improves work-life balance, or at least gives the person the opportunity or the illusion that it does, making your clinic more attractive to job seekers. So you'll get more people in the pipeline. That doesn't mean better, it just means more. But to me, if you want to attract and retain, work with me. Remember, if you own a clinic, your job is to sort of make my life easier so I can go make those patients happy, and those patients come back and make you money.
Yeah, we know that therapists are motivated by more than just the money.
Has to be.
Forever. Like, we started our private practice in 2002. From the first therapist to the last therapist, everybody we've ever recruited, we've always said the same thing. I cannot pay you as much as home health is paying. I cannot pay you as much as skilled nursing is paying. But what I can do is I can offer you other things of value. So for us, I have a therapist that's going to a football game. He needs to take Monday and Tuesday off next week. No big deal. He can do it. Like, he moves his patients around. We're not doing mobile. This is in the clinic, but it's still fine. He can treat patients and vacate his Monday, Tuesday. He doesn't even have to use PTO if he doesn't want to, because he has that flexibility. We have other therapists who are like, I love outpatient. I love ortho. I love the stuff that I'm doing at Tony's clinic, but I'm not making as much money as I need. So I say, look, take Fridays, work 4/10s, take Fridays and go work at skilled nursing or home health, and you get the increased income, but then you got the satisfaction when you're working here, and you dollar cost average, and overall you're going to make up 10% or more in that time. Yeah. So having that kind of flexibility would be amazing. And I think we can do it in smaller practices, privately owned practices. Hospitals, skilled nursing, these other facilities just aren't going to do it.
Don't think so?
They're going to throw more money maybe, but they're never going to give you that flexibility.
Hamster wheel, man. I mean, solving the money is a short-term fix, and it attracts the people that are attracted by money. It's going to attract good, but it's also going to attract equal parts bad. And in terms of bad, like, not a good fit.
So my number 2 is going to be, okay, number 1 was, let's figure out a different way to deliver the outcome and the service.
Right.
Number 2 is, let's consider treating a different population. Like, I know a lot of clinicians that are amazing lymphedema therapists, oncology therapists, pelvic floor therapists. These are therapists that are seeing a population for long, really, really long plans of care.
Right.
That becomes high risk, because the longer you're treating someone compared to your peers, the more chance of a Medicare audit or third-party payer audit. We know that typically 4-unit follow-up visits tend to be less profitable than shorter visits or evaluation visits. There's all these complications that come in choosing to treat a patient demographic that's highly complex, especially if you're not adding in any self-pay services on top of it. So what if you took 20, 30% of the available slots and said, okay, if we want to treat this special population that we're uniquely trained for, why don't we take 20 or 30% of our schedule and just focus on the high margin, high profit, lowest hanging fruit? And for me, even staying in insurance only, these are like single visit evaluation, prescribe a home exercise program, discharge with RTM in place, and the patient is done. These are the high functioning geriatric individuals. They're playing pickleball and they're golfing and they're traveling and they're squeezing in a physical therapy evaluation just to make sure there's no major red flags. But really, this would be a 20, 30-minute session. Single visit plan of care. I do the evaluation. I screen out any major complication. I prescribe 2 or 3 simple home exercises and put them on an RTM program to continue to advance and do their home exercise. I would typically generate about $200 to $300 for about 20 minutes of my time. You put 20% of my caseload or my schedule doing that. Now I can afford to pay the
Got it.
expertise for the better therapists that are doing the more complex cases, even if I'm losing money on those other cases.
Yeah. It's so funny where therapists, and we can talk trash because we are them, right? Like that's like the biggest hall pass. It's like, I have more education, I have more skill, I have more knowledge, I'm more niche, but third-party payers don't care. And they'll say like, well, how do we make them care? And I'm like, spoiler alert, I want you to look, come here, closer, deeper into my eyes. They're never going to care. They're never going to care. This is a way to say, how can I leverage that? And so ultimately, like the final part in that loop is you're going to pay those people more because you're making more with them. So it's the rising tide lifts all ships, which is, let's figure out ways. Again, people have to sort of sever that emotional, I need one-on-one care for an hour every single visit. Do you? Like, I remember as a student, I watched some really great clinical instructors like do a lot more with a lot less words, a lot less motion, a lot less instruction, like the right ones. So if that's you, I don't care what discipline you're in. Are there ways to make that more profitable? Yes. Are there ways to make people get better faster? Yes. Can all these things be true? Also, yes. But you have to think outside the box. You can't just wait for someone to pay you more because you think you're better and smarter. You have to sort of do more.
I'm going to correct you on just one thing.
Okay, go ahead.
My number 3, which I'll get to it after yours, is how to pay more. The number 2 is not about paying more. The number 2 is about giving the therapist the freedom to treat more complex cases without penalizing them, because we know if they're going to other busier practices, they're not going to have the freedom to do what they want, how they want, as long as they want.
So this is more of a, I want to be this type of PT, but okay, got it. Perfect. Awesome. All right. I'm going to go long-term impact, and I'm going to say shared victory. And I've seen this work and I've seen this not work, which is bonuses, in my opinion, are like too much like a treat for a trick, right? Don't treat your therapist like a dog. I heard a great line, which is, I ran today, which means I can eat this donut. It's like, dude, you're not a dog. You don't do tricks for food. I don't do tricks for money, except I would do tricks to feel like, or I would do a little bit extra work or think outside the box if I feel like I'm invested. So my third suggestion is, can you share the victory, right? The idea here is, can you implement a profit sharing or performance-based bonus so that your therapists feel invested in the clinic's financial success? So when I feel like my little things are adding up to big things, and like, why don't I get a part of that, right? We talked about it on a live stream just the other day. They said some of these big chains will do that. Hey, we're opening a new clinic, or you've hit your ceiling at this clinic, and the person above you, like, we love them and we don't want to like get rid of them, and they don't want to go any higher. So let's move you laterally, but let's have you invested instead of like, well, I get paid to unlock the door and make sure the therapists are here. The rising tide lifts all ships. So this would be like a more of a long-term profit sharing, performance-based bonus. So they understand what needles need to be moved, because this is a business. And here's the M word. It's a dirty word, money. If this organization makes more money, why shouldn't you too? So profit sharing would be my third suggestion. Let's get, and that, I mean, there's that long term. Let's keep those good people around. If those people are getting poached or they're getting emails like, want to come work for us, good. Means you have a good person. Give them a reason to stay.
And my number 3 grows on that. In order to profit share, you need profit. Like most of us are operating with virtually no profit. So this is where I'm looking at this. And one of my favorite YouTube channels outside the profession of PT is Jared the Plumber. It's not called Jared the Plumber, but his name's Jared and he's a plumber on YouTube.
Okay.
Excuse me. And he talks about paying his plumbers, his contractors, twice what they get paid anywhere else. And he said as soon as he did that, his business exploded. Because now, and this goes to your first recommendation, when you're paying literally double. So imagine the going rate for a therapist these days is $70 an hour, and you're going to pay $140 and no increased expectation of productivity, like standard productivity applies, but you're going to pay double. Every single one on your team, especially once they realize you're doing this for real, they're going to tell everybody else about it. Everybody's going to want to come to you. So now the question is, how the heck do you do that? How do you pay a therapist double what they would have been making? Well, there's a couple options in here. You guys know I love the social media side of things. I shared a YouTube video where it was an 8-minute clip. I think it generated like $500 in Google and YouTube ad revenue. I had another, it was a TENS unit video. I was showing a patient how to use a TENS unit, recorded it in real time, posted it to YouTube, generated $500 in ad revenue, generated another $500 in affiliate income from TENS units that were sold on Amazon this year, generated $850 something from TENS units that were sold last year. So that 8 minutes of a 60-minute treatment generated over $1,500. And I said you can't do this with every session, but why can't you? Maybe you can. Maybe we can capture that content, monetize it across multiple social media platforms, affiliate links, paid content, RTM, all of these other things. And now you don't have a therapist that's generating 1 hour, $150 in revenue. You have a therapist that's generating hundreds of dollars every single month for the 1 hour they gave you, and that's where I think we can go and double the rate, because now we're creating celebrities. We've talked about this. Now we're creating information, education, and we're finding other consumers of that information and content. YouTube is a consumer of that content because YouTube is buying that content and selling it to other advertisers. Amazon is buying that content and selling it to product sales cycles. Like, there's other ways for us to monetize that hour of time, which would allow us to pay double, which would allow us to recruit the best in the area and just create a vacuum that just sucks all of these amazing therapists into our organization.
Do you, when you approach a patient and you say, hey, do you mind if I record this? Like, what's the ballpark batting average? Like, do most of them say yes? Is it
100%? I have never been in a situation in all of my time recording where someone said, no, absolutely not. Now, full disclosure, there are those patients that I know ahead of time. They are not going to be a good social media patient. They don't want it. They don't, they have zero interest.
Don't ask.
So I'm selective. I pre-screen. But seriously, like, if I think somebody's inclined to saying yes, I just did this twice, yesterday and today. I said, hey, here's the deal. We're getting a new device in the clinic. It's a shockwave therapy device. This is how it works. This is what it does. I want to record you receiving the treatment intervention for the first time. You could be totally transparent. You could be real. If you don't feel like it helps, I want you to absolutely tell me.
Right.
But I want to share this with other people on my YouTube channel. Every single patient is like, yes, that'd be awesome. Even the ones that are embarrassed secretly love it. And they all sign the media release. It's all HIPAA compliant. They all have the right to refuse. They all have a chance in the future to tell me to take the content down. We do it properly, but they all love it. They all love being the celebrity of their story.
Yeah. So that's our 6 suggestions. Some bonus ones that I didn't, get into my top 3 because we're supposed to be limited, but this is our show, so we can go beyond 3. In-house residency or mentorship programs. A lot of people are coming out of school and saying, like, do I go residency, mentorship? Like really honestly put some time into that, because they're looking for that. Right. And people can sniff this out. If you say this on an interview or a posting, like, we have mentorship, but be good consumers. Explain that to me. What am I going to be getting? Because that was the buzzword of a year and a half ago, which was mentorship and professional development. And then beyond the mentorship, what are you giving me beyond that? Like, so you should always be comparing salary, but like flexibility, schedule, what's responsible. Go beyond the benefits package, which is really important. I know when you're 20 years old, I didn't care. I was just like, salary, is there insurance? Yes. Great. Check. Look into those different things. Does this come with CEU money? Like, because I'm going to need to stay up to date. Can you solve that problem for me together? A lot of large organizations will approach a MedBridge and they'll get a group discount. Smart on MedBridge's part, right? And now for pennies on the dollar or a little bit less, they're able to use that as bait. We asked this on a previous episode. Would APTA membership, if my clinic paid that for you, would that be valuable to some people? And some people like, okay, I guess that's nice, but I'm never going to see the value. So pay attention to what they ask for, what they're paying for themselves. Can you deliver that for a little less and then use it as on the value side instead of just focusing on the price side of that seesaw? I got my seesaw. Just going back and forth. Just focus on one. Don't always focus on one side of that seesaw. Any other bonus suggestions that come to mind before we hit stop?
Yeah, heck yeah. Since you got bonus, I'll get bonus.
Get
I
bonus.
would say, most clinicians tend to be the personality type that avoids conflict and avoids risk, right? Risk averse. So I know when I'm looking at making a major investment, I want to know what's my exit strategy. If I'm starting a business, what's my exit strategy? If I'm getting into a relationship, I just did an onboarding call. I was like, this is amazing. Best onboarding call I have ever had. But how do I get out of this if things don't go well? I always want to see the exit. In a situation like employment, I think a huge value add, if nothing else, is just to say, look, I don't expect you to be with us for 40 years. You're early in your career. You're late in your career. You're in the middle of your career, whatever it is. I understand there is going to be a time for you to be here, to grow, to thrive, to excel, and then you're going to leave. And that's okay. And I want to plan that conversation before you even start, because I want you to know that I expect the best people to outgrow this position, to expand and go into other things. It's totally fine. Because I think a lot of us feel guilted into staying into a position way longer than we ever would have, simply because we like our coworkers, we like maybe the managers, maybe we love the patients,
or
we're always feeling that obligation.
Or we don't know how to properly break up. Like,
Yeah.
how many times have you been somewhere and you're like, I don't know how to get out of this. It's like, there's no, this goes back to, and I've given Jamie Schreier, who we just saw PPS on the fly there last week. One of the greatest questions I've ever heard on an interview. It's so great. It's I call it a ricochet question, but apparently it's called a framing question, like in real talk, which is, if you were to take this job and 3 years from now you were to leave or quit, what do you think that reason would be? And whatever that person says, that's the thing that they're worried about or looking for. And if you don't have that, be upfront. Don't take that person on, even if it's for, even if it's for 2 years, because remember, when someone's ramping up, they're not as productive. They don't know a lot, right? And when they're ramping down, and you never know when they're ramping up because they've just started. You never know when they're ramping down, right? Because when they're mentally checked out, they're going to be requiring more resources, or they're going to be dragging ass, or they're going to be, pissing people off in the organization. So I like that question, because it says, like, well, I want to open my own clinic. Well, actually, my 5-year plan, I'm going to open a second location. So this might be a good match, but that's not on the application. So I love that cheat question from Jamie Schreier. If you were to leave, what would the reason be? I think this is and will be a problem for the foreseeable future. I think AI, apps, RTM can help all these things. But I think the basics are going to win. The organizations that paid attention to what people are looking for. And I know I feel like I'm in the age of these kids today. They want something different. Yes, they do. And the organizations that will create that for those people in the next generation, it's not you anymore. I'm in my mid 40s. It's not me in the middle of the bell curve anyway, of the biggest portion of this 10%. In terms of lack of positions being filled. Pay attention to what the next generation is. It's different than the one that we just came from.
The PT Pinecast is a product of PT Pinecast LLC. It is hosted and produced by PT Pinecast CEO Jim McKay and CBO Sky Donovan from Marymount University. We talk PT, drink beer, and record it. This has been another pour from the PT Pinecast. The PT Pinecast is intended for educational purposes only. No clinical decision-making should be based solely on one source. While care is taken to ensure accuracy, factual errors can be present. More on the show at ptpinecast.com.
Today's episode brought to you by Owens Recovery Science, a single source for PTs who want to add personalized blood flow restriction rehabilitation training to their clinical practice. Get certified at owensrecoveryscience.com. The all-in-one outpatient PT EMR built on automation. That's Empower EMR. They empower owners, physical therapists, billers, and your front desk to profitably provide the best possible patient care experience. Find them online at empoweremr.com. That is empoweremr.com.